Hello, my name is Chloe. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you my August wrap up. So August was not the best reading month for me. It was still good in terms of just like comparatively. I read a lot of books, but not on my standards and not enough for me to catch up with my Goodreads goal. So I read 12 books in August, which was a total of 4,790 pages. I read 9 of them physically and listened to 3 of them via audio, which on average came out to 155 pages per day, and the average size of the books I was reading was 399 pages, so some bigger books. I had 1 book that I didn't rate, 1 book that I gave 1 star, 1 book that I gave 2 stars, 1 book I gave 3 stars, 2 3.5 stars, 4 4 stars, and 2 5 stars, which somehow leaves me with an average rating of 3.5. So starting from the bottom and working our way up, the book that I didn't rate is His Bloody Project by Graham McRae Burnett. This was the Chloe's Crime Scene Corner read of July, and it pushed into August for me. I have given this no rating because although I listened to the audiobook, I don't think I could tell you a single plot point, I don't know what happened in this. I was not following it at all. I was incredibly bored. So this is set in 1869. There has been a brutal murder, and in chapter 1, we know who is arrested, Roderick McRae. A memoir written by the accused makes it clear that he's guilty, but it falls to the county's finest legal and psychiatric minds to uncover what drove him to commit such merciless acts of violence. No rating. I do not care for this, and I'm more confused about this one because there were some very good ratings in the Discord, just not from me. And then the 1-star book, and a book that has safely made it onto the worst books of this year list. I'm so sorry I made people read this. It's Inside the Mind of Jeffrey Dahmer by Christopher Berry D, which I gave 1 star. This is the worst true crime book I have ever read, and I am now fully sworn off of reading anything else by Christopher Berry D. He might be a lovely guy, but trust me, in books he comes off as arrogant, and the writing is just so self-important. So this is supposed to be a book, Inside the Mind of Jeffrey Dahmer. What it actually is a couple of very, very basic facts about the case. For example, this is the page about one of the guys who was murdered. The rest is Christopher Berry D making sure that we all know there have been other books written about this case, and also that we know he has interviewed serial killers, not Jeffrey Dahmer, but that he's interviewed serial killers. I won't go too far into this because otherwise I'm going to have no notes for my worst book of the year list, but I am so sorry I made people read this with me. I will be staying far away from this author now, and yeah, this was shockingly bad. Next up, the 2-star book I read is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I was buddy reading this one with Emily, and sadly it was not my cup of tea. So this is a modern classic ghost story, which was the basis for The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. I can't even say I was swayed by the Netflix show because they are very, very different. I did watch the show first, but the book, there was one moment that creeped me out, not even scared me, creeped me out. And at that time, I was also listening to the soundtrack of the TV show to try and make it more scary, and that is the only time I was scared. Apart from that, I had to Google what had happened because I was incredibly lost, and there was supposed to be like a scary scene, and I couldn't work out what had happened that was supposed to be scary, and that happened a few times through the book. So yeah, I would personally not recommend this one. I know that Emily enjoyed it a little bit more than I did, but not my thing. Next up, my 3-star book is, the name of this book is Secret by, however, someone corrected me in the pronunciation, but by this author, which is not their real name. So this is a book I read as a teenager, and I wanted to come back in as an adult because I remember loving it so, so much. When I started reading it, I remembered the point where I stopped loving it as a teenager, and it's also the point I stopped loving it as an adult. So this is about 2 kids who find a book that says basically, don't read this. And they do. So this is a book written to the reader, really, because it starts with, warning, do not read beyond this page. Good, now I know that I can trust you. An entire double page written as X's. So this story was written in a very fun way. I really did enjoy this, but the kind of basis for the story is that there is a magical smelling set that is found, and there are a group of people who are effectively hunting down children, particularly, who can like smell colours and see words and things like. It's got a name, it's got a name. I did know it when I read it. And they are using them for some sort of devious purpose. So I liked the premise of this book. I really did like how it's written. 5 stars for the narrative style and the whole like, don't read this. Oh, you're reading this anyway. Oh, I can't tell you this. I'm gonna tell you anyway. That kind of style. But the actual story just did not do it for me. So I gave it 3 stars overall. I probably would recommend this to younger readers. I see the point where I gave up with it, and I know that I probably made the right decision at that age. But yeah, so the whole climactic element wasn't really the best, but I love how it's told. So 3 stars. I now have 2 books that I gave 3.5 stars. The first one is Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson. I am so sad I didn't love this more because this cover is absolutely fantastic. This is about a main character, Mila, who is branded to us as a teenage Wiccan. I don't really know much about that kind of thing, but I was interested anyway. Her best friend dies around the same time that 2 other people in her school year have also died, and she is convinced that her friend's death was not a suicide as it's being branded to the school, but that it was actually a murder. So she decides to use magic to bring her best friend back and discover who killed her and why. This was very 3-star for me the whole way through. I didn't really have many feelings about it. The twist in the story I did enjoy because I did not see it coming at all, and looking back I can't see how I didn't see it, but yeah, it was a surprise to me. So 3.5 stars. I won't be keeping this one, which I'm very sad about, but I'm also happy it's finally off my TBR. The other 3.5 star read I have is When Life Gives You Mangoes by Karen Getton. I'm torn on whether to keep this one because it was a very easy read. I did enjoy it, but I won't say too much about this one because I don't want people to get spoiled in the way that I did. I was told it was very similar to another book, and I won't tell you, the person didn't say the name of the book, but they described it enough that I knew exactly what was going to happen in this one. So the whole big reveal for me wasn't that great. So this is about Clara, who lives in Sycamore, and she has a best friend, Gaynor, but she sadly can't remember anything about the previous summer. A new girl arrives in town called Rudy, who comes over from England, and then Rudy and Clara roam the island, uncovering family secrets. And it's good, it is really good, but my enjoyment was completely ruined by the fact I knew what was going to happen, and it's only a short book, so I feel like it's relying on that shock factor, but it didn't have it for me. So I have been grasping onto this, saying I can't get rid of it. I think I am going to get rid of it, which hurts my heart, but do I need to keep this? Probably not. Next up, we have 4 4-star reads. I'll just read them in the order I've stacked them. The first one we have here is Middle Game by Shauna Maguire, and I was pleasantly surprised by this. So this I did as the Patreon buddy read this month. I think we were all kind of daunted by the size of it, but I did really get hooked into this. This is about Roger and Dodger, and it's so hard to explain. I realise now why no one explains this book properly, but it's kind of alchemy based, controlling the world, end of the world, but also Roger and Dodger as children, teenagers and young adults developing their powers, let's say. And I really did like it. I did. I gave it 4 stars because some of it I just wasn't quite following, and I do feel like maybe we didn't need this much of a book. But I did like it. I would recommend it. I just can't really talk about it because 1, I don't feel intelligent enough to, and also I'm on day 4 of a cluster headache, so my head is not fully computing with me anyway on what I want to say about this book. That's not me saying you have to be so intelligent to read it, but there is a little bit more of a deeper storyline to this that takes concentration, is what I'm saying. I've babbled on for a while. If you can concentrate and like alchemy, go for it. Next up, we have The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, and I won't talk about this one too much because I did a full live show with Laura, Victoria and Ali about this book, so I will link that down in the description. But yeah, this is the third book in the Kiss Quotient series. It is unfortunately my least favourite in the series, but I did still give it 4 stars. This follows Anna and Kwon. Kwon has been seen in the previous 2 books and I am just absolutely in love with him. But Anna is introduced in this one. She is a violinist and she had a moment of fame that has now led to her being stuck trying to be perfect with the violin. She starts seeing a therapist and finds out that she may be on the autism spectrum, which is quite challenging for her to accept, but does make a lot of sense. She then deals with her dad becoming very ill and needing full-time care. It's kind of a young woman learning about herself, also dealing with caring responsibilities and Kwon from previous books that we just love so much. So I did really like this. I just didn't love it as much as the rest. It is still tabbed with my thoughts. I will link the live show, but just not my favourite. Next up, we have Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Rees Brennan, Maureen Johnson and Robin Wasserman. I'm going to assume there's a pronunciation there. This copy is immaculate because I actually had a giant book. Anyone who watches my vlogs might remember this turning up on the day I actually finished the audiobook. But this is a collection of short stories, i.e. tales, from the time that one of our characters goes to the Shadowhunter Academy. I didn't realise this came after the Mortal Instruments series and does actually include most, if not all, of our favourite characters from that series. So it was really fun to see how things developed. This could have been a 5-star read for me, but I don't understand the short story components. You can see all the tales broken up here. This did follow one character and their progress at the Shadowhunter Academy across a period of time that worked completely in chronological order. So I don't know why we needed short stories. That's the part that I'm like, why would you do it like that? But I did enjoy learning more about their life and more about Shadowhunter lore. So did enjoy this one and will be holding on to it. Because I only got this copy after I finished it, I do need to go back and annotate this one day, and I definitely intend to. Don't know how fast I'll get back round to all of the Shadowhunter books again, but yeah, I did enjoy this. And finally, in the 4-star bracket, we have A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer Al Armentrout. This one was on the path to being DNF'd, up to about 200 pages. I say about, I mean exactly 200 pages. This is the second book in the From Blood and Ash series, and I felt like the first 200 pages were recapping what happened in the first book and kind of just explaining why things were said in the first book, but no further action, no further drama, no further romance. When we hit that 200-page mark, it really picked up, and the smut might be the best smut I have read. I genuinely loved it, like really did. I thought it was so well done, so detailed, but not in a seedy way is probably the way to explain it. The smutty parts, the development of new drama, the family relationships, the relationships between characters are all 5-star elements for me. But seeing as the first 200 pages are a solid 1.5 star and would have caused a DNF, I'm not going above 4 stars for this book. I am really excited to carry on with the series. I have books 3 and 4, I believe, so I need to get around to them. And I'm just very glad I finally read this. Little bit upset about the first 200 pages, but there is that one. And finally, the 5-star books this month. I will do the one that people will know is missing from this list, and then the one that might be a little bit more of a surprise. So the first 5-star book I have is Eclipse by Stephanie Meyer. This is the third book in the Twilight Saga, and I think I can say with confidence that this is my favourite book in the Twilight Saga. I really loved rereading this. So this follows... Can we spoil Twilight? Like, I don't know how this works, but we have vampires and werewolves leading a fight against newborn vampires. We have the love triangle really forming between Bella, Edward and Jacob, and there were parts of this where I'm like, this is the most problematic relationship that I've ever read, and it's also the first relationship I ever read. I know now why my views on what is acceptable was probably skewed as a teenager due to books like this, but I really did have a good time with it. There is my favourite poem at the start, which is Fire and Ice by Robert Frost, and I genuinely, it's a weird one. It's one of those things when I get stressed, I can very easily recite that poem and feel better. Is that weird? but I have loved it since the time of this book. I cannot wait to watch this movie again with the patrons. We're doing it this weekend, so this video will be going up after, but as it's part of the Twilight Along, we are reading the books and watching the movies as a little community, and it is so much fun. I had a great time rereading this, and yeah, I'm just so happy that I did. And the final book I have to rate for you, the final 5-star read, is Nina Is Not Okay by Shappi Khorsandi. This one was a complete surprise to me, and I don't even know how to explain why I loved it quite so much, but this is a book about Nina, who is struggling with alcoholism, and she is 17? Yeah, 17 at the start of this book. She makes some very questionable decisions, puts herself in some horrific situations, all because of the need to drink. I can't even really tell you much more than that because that is the premise of the entire book, but I was reading it thinking, oh, this could be 4 stars, this could be 4.5. But when I tell you the depth of the sobs towards the end of this book broke my heart, and I couldn't give it any less than 5 stars. So I don't have much to say about this, but if you are looking for something to, 1, delve a bit deeper into alcoholism, but just 2, something to break your heart, then this will fully tick those boxes. So there we have it. Those are the 12 books I read in August. As I said, it was a bit of a slower month for me, but there are some very big books in here that I'm very glad to have ticked off my TBR. Some older stuff as well that I have been kind of ignoring for the longest time but have now finally read. So do let me know if you have any opinions on these books, and let me know what your favourite book of August was. On that note, that's all I really have time for, so thank you very, very much for watching this video. I really do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.